One of the questions I regularly ask people who visit my farm is where does your food come from? The question is a simple one, and the answer I'll often get is from the food delivery rider, from the supermarket, from the local mama. Where does your food truly come from? That is the question we're going to explore today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Irfan. I'm an urban farmer and permaculture designer. So let's talk a little bit about those two things. Firstly, permaculture. What is permaculture? Permaculture comes from two things. First is perma, i.e. permanency, designing things to last a long time. And the second is cultura, culture, occupation of human beings on Earth. Permaculture is an ethical, sustainable design science designed for us to continue living in planet Earth for a long time in a sustainable manner. One thing about permaculture is it sits on three basic ethics. And these are earth care, people care, and fair share. Earth care is about caring for the earth, people care, caring for people, and fair share, returning back to take care of the future. You will immediately see two parallels between permaculture and sustainability. Because sustainability is about people, profit, and planet. Permaculture, earth care, people care, fair share. Why do you see these parallels? Well, because permaculture is about designing things to last a long time in a sustainable manner. Hence, you immediately see that there's a lot of commonalities between permaculture designs and sustainability. Permaculture is not new, by the way. One of the oldest documented food forests is based in Morocco in North America and has been in existence for over 1,000 years. So why did I become a farmer? I have a master's in audio and acoustics, by the way, and I used to work in the corporate world. But I chose to become an urban farmer. And my answer is simple and has never changed. I want my children to know where their food comes from. I want my children to connect to the food that they eat came from a plant or a tree that was nurtured in soil that was grown from either a seed or a rhizome. It took time to get to their plate. And today I can safely say my children can connect to the food that they eat and where it came from. So where does your food come from? Well, let's make it very personal. Let's make it really personal. Where does your nasi lemak come from? Some of you may have eaten nasi lemak for breakfast. It's one of our favorite food in Malaysia. But how local is our nasi lemak? Well, this is the reality of our nasi lemak. This is a packet of nasi lemak I bought a few weeks ago. I was craving nasi lemak after Ramadan, so I bought it. I took a picture of it. And typically the things we find in nasi lemak will be rice, cucumber, ikan bilis, egg, sambal. Simple. Nasi lemak biasa lah, not the fancy one. And this is the reality of our nasi lemak. 35% of the rice we consume is imported. What does this mean to us? This means that for every 10 plates of nasi lemak that we eat, 3 of it is probably made with imported rice. The coconut that is used to make santan, 30% of it is imported. The same thing. 3 of those plates is probably using santan that came from imported coconuts. We import up to 70% of the chili that we consume. Hence, more than half of the sambal we consume may be using imported chili. Fortunately, we still produce our own ikan bilis and our own egg. The egg is typically laid by local hens. But the local hens, how are they fed? Most of the feed that comes into Malaysia to feed chickens is imported from South America, over 14,000 kilometers away. So how local is our nasi lemak? This is a chart of the self-sufficiency ratio of Malaysia for 2021. On the left side, we see what we are not sufficient in, and the right side, we see what we are sufficient in. And currently, Malaysia's top imports include beef, mutton, ginger, coconut, and rice. I found this staggering to think that we are importing ginger, considering the fact that it's so easy to grow ginger in Malaysia, yet we are importing it. And coconut grows wild in Malaysia. We see it everywhere. It grows in people's houses. It grows everywhere, yet we are importing coconut. And this is a reality. But we should not be too concerned because the other side, where we are sufficient, is quite adequate. And in terms of food security, we are still okay. However, we do need to accept the reality that a lot of our regular consumption is dependent on farmers from another country. Farmers that grow it for us, pack it for us, and send it to us. So why grow food locally in a natural way? This is a picture of purple corn from my farm. I harvested it a few weeks ago, peeled it, took a picture, put it in the slides. Then I took it home to my family. They boiled it, they ate it, they didn't leave any for me. They knew it was fresh. They knew because I told them. I plucked it this morning, I told them. They also knew because it tastes good. It didn't taste like the corn typically purchased from the supermarket, which has probably gone through packaging and refrigeration before it got to their plate. They could taste the difference. They could taste the freshness and they enjoyed it. But the story doesn't end there. These are some of the other things I regularly bring home for my family to eat, and my children are privileged to continue to enjoy fresh food regularly. My daughter, since she was 2 years old, I used to take her to my farm and I used to show her around. And one day while I was showing her around, she was 2 years old, my gardener plucked a fresh piece of bendi and started eating it. Then I did the same. Looking at me doing that, I plucked another piece of bendi and I gave it to her. The 2-year-old put it into her mouth, took a bite, started enjoying the fresh, crunchy bendi and said, "Yummy." Until today, every time I bring back fresh bendi from my farm, she'll insist on eating it raw. She says, bendi should be eaten raw. The downside of this is she refuses to eat cooked bendi. My son is 4 years old this year, and he also has been enjoying produce from my farm since he was a toddler. One of his favorite fruit is banana. And I have been regularly bringing home banana from the farm, especially during the pandemic where a lot of produce was scarce. So my sales were down, hence I used to bring a lot of fruit home. At one point, when my sales got better, I started selling a lot of the bananas, and occasionally we would have to buy bananas from the shop to eat at home. So one day I gave him one of the shop bananas to eat at breakfast. He took a bite and he spat. He spat it out. He said, "Not yummy." I said, "Why?" He said, "I don't want shop banana. I want farm banana." He can connect that the shop banana has gone through packaging and artificial ripening, whereas the farm banana is fresh, it's clean, and the moment it's ripened, it's tasty to him. The last story I want to share today is about custard apple. Custard apple is something that we don't find in supermarkets nowadays. It's something that it's not very common, and a lot of people haven't even seen custard apple. Yet my children get to enjoy custard apple regularly. My daughter in particular loves custard apple. Every time I bring it home, she waits for it to ripen, then she devours it. We barely get any. If my mother is lucky, she gets some, but normally I just see the empty shell. She knows it's tasty, and to her, custard apple is the tastiest thing she can eat. It's tastier than any chocolate or candy. To her, that's the best thing in the world. She can connect between natural flavors. Her palate has been shaped well, and she knows where her food comes from. So in conclusion, we are not what we eat. We are what our food eats. And part of being human is to connect to where our food comes from. Before I end, I would like to share a small quote by Bill Mollison, and this is the quote that he places in the Permaculture Handbook, where the greatest change that we need to make is from production to consumption. And even if we do it in a small scale in our own garden, we will create a massive impact. If 10% of us do this, change the way we consume, we will create a ripple effect. So come and join me, join the 10% club. Take 10% of your time to do something different in how you consume, and let's together create a massive impact. So now let's go back to the first question. If I was to ask you right now, where does your food come from? Perhaps now you'll have the answer. Thank you.